What you're experiencing in the void is the reality, and everything else is an illusion. And that's why when huge manifestations happen in your life, they always feel incredibly easy, like you didn't have to do anything. The past, present, and future all exist in this moment, and the universe is infinite. So we've got all of these infinite timelines that we can access.
Hey everybody, so today we're with Jessica, and Jessica is a manifestation coach, and she actually coaches her clients on how to manifest things into their lives. And today I got an exclusive interview with her. I'm going to be asking her some pretty in-depth questions and seeing if she can help me manifest a few things in my life as well. And I thought it'd be a great conversation to share with you. So Jessica, how are you? Thanks so much for doing this with me.
Oh, good. Thank you, Malcolm. Nice to be doing it with you. And
Yeah,
looking forward to chatting about manifestation.
absolutely. Well, let's jump right into it. So what exactly is manifestation? What exactly do you do, and how do you help people, achieve that in their lives?
Essentially, most people are just reacting to life. Whatever is thrown at them, there's just reaction to that. And ultimately, what manifestation is you have control over where your life can go, and you actually have a lot of control in creating amazing realities. Any reality is possible, anything that you can imagine. So ultimately, the start of the process, we're looking at expanding the imagination, because until you can really hold it in your mind, then it's difficult to manifest it. So say, for example, someone has a sort of standard 9-to-5 job and they have a limited potential of earning. Now, if they don't believe that they can earn millions, then those opportunities don't tend to present themselves. So that first of all, you have to start to expand the imagination as to what is possible, because as the way reality works from a quantum perspective is that the past, present, and future all exist in this moment, and the universe is infinite. So we've got all of these infinite timelines that we can access. So once we understand that, then it's just a case of knowing that what you want is possible, and you then start to do the internal work around that. So that's where I essentially help people, is what is it that they want, and understanding the inner state they need to be in terms of being able to manifest it, essentially.
Okay, very cool. And so I love that type of talk into the quantum physics and multiverse. And so do you, I guess, believe in the concept that we do live in a multiverse and there's an infinite number of timelines available, and there is a timeline with that exact manifestation? And so you teach your clients how to draw themselves or draw that timeline to them. Is that essentially it?
Yeah. It's a state of being. So you're going to, first of all, decide what it is that you want. Then it's about connecting with that version of reality. So a lot of people are using affirmations and thoughts, like the level of the mind, to manifest. And I don't think that works particularly well. What we're looking for is a state of being that you are a match to that your vibrational frequency is at the right level in order to match to that reality. And so we start to look at so there's going to be something that you want. What is the state of being you need to be in order to be a match to that? Try and think of an example of it. So it might be that you want to be an international speaker. So the state of being for that is, it's going to be able to hold that frequency of being able to speak to people, thousands of people on stage. And if you can hold that in your body, that's who you are, that you just start to move in your life as that's what you already have, that's who you are, then you start to see certain synchronicities and opportunities move to start to make that a reality. So ultimately, you can, so let me give you an example. I was thinking about setting up an app, but it was sort of ultimately going to bring in, it was sort of a multi-million, like $hundreds of million type app. And I'd spoken, so I'd set the intention and I'd started having these synchronicities. So I saw this person who works in that space and they're like, well, this is what you need. You need a tech co-founder. Like, I don't know what one of those are. I don't know where to find them. So within the meditation, I said that's what I needed. And so I was sitting in Starbucks the next day, and it was pretty busy and my head was just focused on my laptop, and this person came over and wanted to know what I was working on, which was unusual. And so we struck up a conversation, and just as he was about to leave, I was like, oh, what do you do? And he's like, oh, I'm a tech co-founder and I do this thing. So you can start to see, he then sat down with me and told me exactly what needed to happen. So you can start to see that as soon as you set the intention, it'll manifest very easily, especially when there's no resistance to it. Now, where the resistance comes in is when people are trying to manifest something very primal and important, like relationships, love, money. There's a lot of emotion and stuff attached, and sometimes feelings that they can't have it. But when you're trying to manifest something, it's like, oh, something that's not that important, then it manifests very easily.
Oh, really? So is there a scale to this? Like some things are easier to manifest in your life than other things? Is that right?
Everything's the same. It just depends on your state of being.
Okay.
It doesn't even, I mean, I'd say be open to anything is possible. That's going to be so helpful in not setting the limitations. So what tends to happen is people are in the space of that's not possible for me, or they can't see if they need something, like in that example I gave you, that how someone could just suddenly magically appear in your life. But that's exactly how it works. Once you start to open up to the possibility that anything can happen, then things do happen very easily. And that's part of the process of, what we have to teach people is how to open up to possibility and potential. And then that's when you start to really be able to quantum leap in your realities to any reality you want, really. If you can really hold it in your head, hold that state of being, it will always manifest.
Okay, yeah, very cool. Now you're saying holding it in your state of being, is this another way of saying you have to feel the emotions? Like, do emotions play a big role in your school of thinking for manifestation?
Yeah, it's holding, so everything's got a frequency. So if you're wanting, say you're in a relationship and you want a commitment from that relationship, it's the start of a relationship, you would hold the energy of commitment. You would know that that's already what it is. Even you would ignore circumstances. So this is a big part of it. We're going to be seeing a 3D reality that shows us these circumstances, and then that tends to destabilize us. And we're like, oh, this happened, so I'm going to see it's not going to happen, and then that destabilizes us and then knocks off the manifestation. But in this case, if you can just hold that, no, this is the person, it's going to happen, and I don't care what I'm being presented with, I'm just going to hold that frequency within me. Now, what happens is you start to show up as a very different person, because you're showing up with a lot more security, and there isn't that instability within you, because it's the instability that is causing things to not manifest, or a relationship to collapse, or arguments to happen, rather than just being in that very present, this is happening, and that's what happens. So it's straightforward. The challenge is our emotions are just all over the place sometimes, and it's how do you have this very strong core balance that no one can knock you off. You have your vision of what it is you want, and no matter what anyone is telling you or what is showing up, you just stick with the vision and it manifests. So it is as straightforward as that. Now what happens is we've got these sort of the psychology going on of, so, you know, childhood patterns and patterns that we've picked up. And how this works is we're looking through life with a certain lens based on our limiting beliefs, our environment, what our parents were, you know, how we grew up, all of that stuff. So we're each experiencing a different reality. And so if we can just shift that perspective, change the lens, then suddenly a different reality shows up. And how I've always seen this in my own mind is that the subconscious can access everything, but it has to have filters, because there would be too much to experience everything going on. So it has filters, and these filters are designed, you know, put in place from, as I say, childhood and all of that stuff. So you're only going to see certain things with those filters. Once you shift the filter, another reality just appears straight away, because there's no time and space. That's all that needs to happen. There just needs to be a different perspective. And you can see, actually, there was this example of, they'd set up this crime scene because they wanted to see how different people's perspective was. So the people who were witnesses didn't know that they thought it was real, and they were all interviewed, and every single one gave a different story as to what happened. So they're all coming from their own perspective. And once you can shift that, you just see something completely different within your reality. So it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, that is pretty interesting. Now, you mentioned synchronicities before, and I've heard people talking about this. This is something I definitely struggle with, is finding the synchronicities or, you know, coincidences in my life. Can you tell me a little bit about that? How exactly does that happen, I guess, and how does it, like, that synchronicities like that manifest in your life?
So basically, this is what happens: is the more present you become, that you're not in the past, you're not in the future, you're just very present in the moment. Whatever you're doing in life, you're just focused in that moment on what you're doing. And obviously that's quite difficult for most people, but when you are able to be more present in everything you do, we have these energy sensors which start to open up. So a baby is born with the energy sensors fully open. And as they start to get older, you know, to sort of 5, 6, 7, you've got their environment is placing these beliefs and limiting beliefs on them. Oh, you can't do this. No, you can't be Superman. You know, they think anything's possible. And slowly through time, we're all told that no, none of this stuff is really possible, and to stop being so, you know, anything is possible type thing. Mm-hmm. That tends to close down the energy sensors. So then we can't really experience all of this extra stuff that is going on in the universe. So as you move into presence, you can either do this by just being present or meditating. You're going to open these energy sensors, and you're going to be more sensitive to everything that's going on around you. And so this is when you start to be able to see synchronicities, and it can get so intense that you're literally having a conversation with the universe. What happens is you think something, and immediately there's a sign, or there's an answer, or you see something on an advert, or someone says something. It's very immediate often. Or you think of a question that you want help with in your life, and then you'll see a video that answers the exact question. Like you're just guided into these very precise places to answer questions or manifest, or put you with the right people. Ultimately, the synchronicity is just you're experiencing more of reality than usual. And once you're able to do that, then you can really use that for manifesting.
So it's almost like you're saying those synchronicities are always there, always around us, but we have these filters and our awareness is too focused and we're not open enough to notice the synchronicities.
Exactly. They're always there. And we tend to be very stuck in our heads, or we're in this sort of habitual living. So Joe Dispenza is always talking about this. You're just in this, your habits are just moving you, like you're unconscious really. You're just being moved through the day. So ultimately what we're trying to do is expand that awareness, and it's in that awareness that we start to notice all the stuff that is always around us. So for example, someone with a more closed state is not going to see certain opportunities in a business. And someone who has a different set of filters or is more aware sees all the opportunities, like all they see is opportunity everywhere. Someone experiencing a lot of stress is that everything's going to close in and they're not going to see all of the potential. And then so they start to experience a different reality of, oh, things are difficult, there aren't many opportunities, business is difficult, where somebody else has just doesn't see that. They just see that everything's very abundant and easy. Right. Essentially that's coming down to that sort of awareness, expansion and consciousness, where your filters are. Mm-hmm.
So if somebody's trying to manifest something in their lives, how specific should they get? Should they envision a very specific scenario, or is it just a broader emotion that they have to feel, how they would feel if that thing manifested? And like, how specific should somebody get when they're trying to manifest something?
There's no rules to that. You can do whatever feels good. When you're working with more of this is the feeling I want, this is the direction I want to be in life, or when it's a bit more broad, then what happens is things can move in their own way to manifest. So this is when it's sort of a bit of both. So the specificity works well, but it also can hinder you. So this is why it hinders, is because as you go, right, this is what I want, this is very specific, you start to try to figure out the how. Right, this is how I'm going to do it. And as soon as you start to figure out the how, you're going to take over from the manifesting universe, and you're going to do it from the level of yourself. And what we're looking for is how to do it that you set the intention, you leave it, you forget about it, and it's just going to happen. So we're looking at where we're trying to control the process and take that level of control out. So this really leads us into the idea of faith. How strong is your faith in what you're going to get? Because when there's something you really want, if you believe you're going to have it 100%, you can then just forget about it. But we tend to think, we don't trust we're going to get it. And then we start to control the situation, try to make things happen, start to worry about stuff, start to worry that it might not happen. And that's all the energy or frequency that's stopping the manifestation. So it's ultimately very simple. You are setting the intention, having that internal state of being that that's what is going to manifest, and you have that faith, like a deep faith, rather than just at the mind level of, yeah, I believe anything's possible. It's got to come deep from within. And then you just let go of the importance of it, because when something's too important, then too much energy is built up, and then that slows down or stops the manifestation. So it's like when you have something, if you think of anything that you have in your life, it usually doesn't really have that much importance. It's not a big deal. When you've got it, it tends to be not a big deal. I think there's a quote of, which one is it? It always feels impossible until it's done.
Right.
It's that as soon as it's done, you're like, oh, that was easy. Don't particularly want it now. It's got that sort of feeling to it. It's sort of when you get something like, say, buy a new car, it's all exciting, and then after a month is boring. You've got the car, you know, now you're on to what's next. So you can see how as soon as we have something, it sort of loses its value. And so in that manifestation process, if you can just let go and not see it as a big deal, then it tends to manifest very easily.
Right, that makes sense. I was reading a book the other day called Feeling is the Secret by Naval Gennard. And in there, he was saying that what you don't want to do is say that I will be healthy or I will be rich, because by doing that, you're acknowledging that you're not healthy and that you're not rich. And instead, you want to say, I am healthy, I am rich. And so it sounds like it's very similar, where you just have to acknowledge and feel that you are those things that you're trying to manifest now, not that it's going to be happening in the future. Is that right?
Yeah, there's actually a really good way of working with that. That's slightly different from those affirmations of I am, which is putting sort of like a question thing. If it might, in terms of health, it might be, I've seemed to have lived this life of health. I always feel so like I have so much vitality. It's always asking yourself questions in that way. So a natural one for me that actually just comes up without me even thinking is I never get sick. I've always, because I've just noticed that I'm like, oh, nothing really happens. I just, you know, never seem to get sick. And because I'm affirming that, I wonder why that is. I wonder why I never get that. In that state, you are then in the sort of time space where you never get sick. And there's a feeling of it lifts your vibration, because when you're suffering from something and you're doing these affirmations of I'm healthy, there's a cognitive dissonance. The brain doesn't really believe it. And so then it's like, well, you are sick and you're saying you're not sick. It just doesn't feel good. So when you're moving into this other way of questioning, of just like, you know, yeah, why do I feel so healthy? Why am I, whatever it is, it doesn't cause that same dissonance. And from there, your vibration starts to rise. It might be something like, why do I manifest so easily? Why am I so lucky? And so it's also in those questions that the subconscious will start to answer it. So rather than the subconscious fighting you on, well, no, you're this and you're saying you're this, which there's not true. It's when you start to ask the questions, why do I manifest so easily? It's going to start to answer it, and you're gonna go, well, it's because of this, it's because of that. So that works super well.
Okay. So my next question, it may be a bit of a tricky question for you. But so my son has a genetic disorder known as Fragile X, and he has very severe intellectual disabilities and autism. He's almost 7 now. He still hasn't spoken. If I wanted to kind of set my expectations of what I could manifest, I mean, could I manifest that this genetic disorder completely goes away and he grows up to be a normal functioning adult? Or should I set my expectations more at maybe I can help some of the symptoms around his autism and around his disabilities, and maybe it could help him speak and verbalize? Like, where should I set my expectations? Like, are there really no limits, or are there some limits, especially if I'm not trying to manifest something in my life, I'm trying to manifest something in somebody else's life?
How I see it is that there's an answer for everything in the universe. And so what you're looking for when you're helping somebody else is you're looking for the answer as to why that is happening or who can help. So it's not that, from my perspective, it's not that you're manifesting the health within them. It's opening up that subconscious to who's got the answer, who can help with this, because there is an answer to it. And in that's got a sense of looking at formulating a way of thinking about it that is going to bring in the specific people that can help with that, or the answers. that you might just be looking on the internet and something just clicks. You're like, that's it. This is what I'm, dealing with. And so that's how I'd really approach it, as to the answer is there and you're manifesting the answer to the question.
Okay. So it'd be more like that somebody, a therapist would come into my life that he really resonates with, or somehow I figure out how to like interact with him, then they can learn how to start speaking. Is something like that that would come into my life.
Yeah, so it'd be like, there's an example in one of the Joe Dispenza retreats that I was on. And this woman had terminal cancer, and I think she had like 1% chance. No, I think she had no percent chance of living, but she had a month left to live. And she'd been to all the doctors and there's nothing she could do. She must have asked herself something along these lines, because she then came across a YouTube video of Joe Dispenza. And so she's like, well, this is the sort of last chance, and I'm just going to go to the retreat. Within that retreat was the one before I went on, the one I went on, the terminal cancer was cured. So she came back to the second retreat to say, look, this is what happened. So there was something in what she was doing with the subconscious that was like leading her, guiding her to where the answer was. And so she was guided directly how to help herself in that respect. So I think that's quite a good example of how very specific it is when you just allow the subconscious to lead you. So it might also be an intuitive feeling, tapping into your intuition. Yeah, and allowing the answer to come from any source. And then as you feel into it, so say with that person, she must have had an intuitive feeling to go to the retreat and go, I feel like this is where I need to go. So it's got that quality to it.
Okay. So I guess a follow-up question for that would be like, what you teach or how you believe it, manifestation, is it that it can actually impact the physical world around us, or is it more that you're drawing things to you and drawing a life events and circumstances to you?
Well, I've got a good story for that to understand it. So there were a set of villagers, and they would get the rainmaker in to make it rain, to get the crops to grow. And a lot of the rainmakers just wouldn't get it right. But there was one rainmaker who would get it right. Every single time, 100%, he would go and make it rain, essentially. And what was going on was he had the sensitivity. And so he could feel where the rain was going to be, which village or where it's going to appear. And then he'd just go and sit in the village. And it would start raining, and he's like, everyone's thinking he made it rain, but he just knew where it was going to rain, and he put himself there. So it's the same like with Bushmen in Africa. They have such a sensitivity to the earth, and to that they can feel and know things that most of us can't know. So what happens, and how we can see manifestation working, is everything is just here. Like there's no time and space. Whatever you want is already in your energy. And it's just putting yourself in the space of where the manifestation is. So a lot of people feel like they're trying to call the manifestation into them, that it's separate from them. But as we know, there's no separation in this universe. It's just oneness. And so when you're in the sense of oneness, and you're manifesting in that way, all you're doing is you're just going to place yourself energetically in the manifestation. Just like the rainmaker just had a sensitivity. So this might look like you want something to happen in your business. And if you're using this way of doing things, it might be that you just get a sense to call somebody. And when you call them, you have no reason why you called them. You just called them, and something big happens in your business. You didn't have to go and get anything. It wasn't this sort of movement of energy. It just suddenly was there in your experience very easily. So manifestation is incredibly, has such a light touch. It's not this, oh, I've got to do all this work to go and get something or to make something happen. It's understanding how it's working with this rainmaker story, and it's just suddenly there. And that's why when huge manifestations happen in your life, they always feel incredibly easy, like you didn't have to do anything. If I look at anything within my life that's been how it should have felt very big, it's been so, that was so easy. Like I literally didn't have to do anything. And when we stop looking, because ultimately we've all been programmed that life is hard, that making money is hard, everything's hard, that you've got to work hard. So of course, when you believe that, that's what you have to do in order to manifest. But as you move into this much lighter way of being, if things just happen very easily, then that's exactly what happens. And ultimately manifestation and things happening in your life are very easy.
What would you say are some of the biggest mistakes that you see people make when they're trying to manifest? I'm trying to manifest health for my son. What are some of the pitfalls and mistakes that you commonly see amongst your clients?
It's not accepting the present moment, wanting to be somewhere they're not, or wanting to be, they don't want to be where they are. There's a huge, I think with most people, always trying to get somewhere. And then that really slows things down and when you just accept this moment as perfect, so whatever is going on in your life and with the health stuff going on, it's an acceptance of, okay, I just accept it. That's one of the main things I see people struggling with, of just not wanting to accept how things are and fighting against it. So there's that acceptance part of it.
So you're saying that that's a mistake, that people accept, or that they don't accept what the current circumstances is?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a resistance. That's what it is. It's a resistance to this present moment. So what happens is a moment comes, there's stuff happening within our life that we'd rather something else be happening. And that causes the resistance. And as we're in that lack state, and we're in that state of, I don't want this. And so that just keeps it alive within the manifestation. And so we want to just accept that this is how it is and allow it to be that way. And what tends to happen is the energy starts to move a little bit and things start to flow. It's not so compacted into that state of being.
Okay, that makes sense. And I do have another question. How important is meditation to what you teach? Or do you teach your clients that they should be meditating every single day? Or is this manifestation really something that they are supposed to be doing kind of throughout their day and all day long?
Everyone's manifesting every single second of the day.
Okay.
And we're just manifesting in alignment with who we are and who we're being. And just like a very basic example, if you've been born into poverty and that is a strong frequency in your environment, that you tend to manifest more of that. And if you've been born into a very wealthy environment, because of that's the environment you're in, you're going to tend to manifest more in that frequency. So it's when we're trying to move and shift in our life and have a different reality to the one we have, that's where we're working with the state of being and how we feel about things. What was your question again? I went off track.
So yeah, so I guess we kind of answered it. Like I was asking if this is a practice that we do during meditation or something throughout our entire day. And so it sounds like this is something that you do all day long. And so do you still advocate that your clients practice daily meditation?
Yeah, so the meditation is, I think, crucial. I think so good for mental health anyway.
Right.
Um, so you're just creating, first of all, you're creating spaciousness within yourself, that you're not going to be reactive to things. You're creating more of an awareness. So as soon as you're aware of something, you can shift it. If you're not aware of something, you're just going to keep recreating the same thing over and over. So, say within the Joe Dispenza way of doing things, where it's he talks a lot about these habits we have, and they are just, if you do the same habits, you're going to get the same reality.
Right.
But if you don't know that you're in that state, then you can't change it. So as you bring more awareness into your life, you can start to see what things need to shift. So you've got that aspect of meditation, of just more awareness. But in meditation, when you go into the void, which is when you go really deep into meditation, you get into this this place where you feel that connection. You're just at one with the universe, and so you feel this profound
Right.
sense of love and peace and bliss. You know, it's a very intense state. I mean, it's probably going to be slightly different for each person. For me,
I've been there. I know what you're talking about.
yeah, it's that void. So, and you'll find all like insecurities, anxieties, everything just no longer exists. So in the meditation, when you're getting into that void, when you come into your normal life, you then have that connection to, okay, this is actually reality. What you're experiencing in the void is the reality, and everything else is an illusion. And so within that meditation, you're able to hold on to that sense of knowing of how the universe really works and how it should really feel, that we should be in this state of bliss and love and peace all the time. But we have all of these very strong energies coming in, you know, the sort of 3D, third dimensional reality, you know, taking us out of that vibration. So I'd always say meditation. What I notice, I do an hour a day.
Okay.
Sometimes I do 2 hours. Occasionally I do 5 hours a day. And I've noticed when I do the 2 hours or 5 hours, the next day incredible things manifest, because during that time you haven't been thinking. You've opened up the energy sensors. You become more sensitive to your environment. So I think it was one occasion where I'd done a 5-hour meditation, and the next day I got a intuitive feeling to call somebody, and that call led to something very significant happening that I'd wanted to happen, and I couldn't have made it happen through just hard work. It was just one of these experiences that was just really profound. But it was the meditation. And so it's an amazing thing to meditate.
Yeah, so Dr. Joe calls it tapping into the unified field, or the quantum field. I've heard other people call it the cosmic intelligence or God or whatever. That kind of state where you're not aware of anything except for this powerful energy with inside of there. And so I've heard people say that, like, you need to train yourself to be aware of that energy in your waking life and kind of bring that energy forward into your waking life. Is that kind of so? And you think that energy, tapping into that can improve your chances of manifesting and seeing serendipities and kind of help more align you into that timeline that you're looking for?
Yeah, I mean, completely. I think you can manifest without meditating. As I say, everyone's manifesting all the time, but it just gives you much more of an ability to create the reality you want to create, just because there is more awareness. So you can see. I think another part of it is that the meditation helps you come into a stability and within yourself, so you're not all over the place, you know, emotionally, that there's you don't feel that essentially you're moving into your parasympathetic nervous system, which is that sort of rest state. And it's in that state that you can see what all the the solutions to problems are. So for example, if we're holding a lot of stress in our bodies and we're in that flight or fight mode, which most people are in without realizing most of the time, because we live in a stressful society, it's like you can't see the solutions to stuff. And as soon as you relax, suddenly you're like, oh my God, actually that's the solution. This is how I get that. And all the answers are suddenly there and it all seems very easy. So we're just looking for that state of being where life just feels like it's easy to get problems solved. I mean, I don't know if I think we've all experienced those intense or acute periods of stress. Something has happened in your life and it's like, this is a lot of stress. You can't think clearly, that you can't find the problems to things. It's like the solutions don't even exist. You're like, I'm stuck. So this is where people feel very stuck in their life, that they can't get out of it. And the stress is getting more and more intense and pressure is coming in. As they're able to meditate and or keep the pressure off them. Pressure is always going to be here in life. And what we're looking to do in meditation is hold the pressure off us. So it's still there, but as we hold it off us, we can then just move and do what we need to in life with much more ease. And that's where we find all the solutions to what we need.
Right. Yeah, that totally makes a lot of sense. If you're in that state of fight or flight, like your awareness is very hyper focal. You're not looking around and seeing all the opportunities that are around you. That totally makes sense. All right. So if anybody wanted to reach out to you and kind of talk to you a bit more about this sort of stuff, where can they reach you at?
On Instagram at Go Inward. Yeah, Go Inward.
All right, great. I'll have a link to it down in the description below. Well, Jessica, thanks so much for doing this. I really appreciate your time. This is pretty profound. This is pretty helpful. So I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
All right. Thank you.